Hello to all of you who are watching the channel. If you love emotional, inspiring, and sometimes deeply unexpected stories, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our latest videos. Thank you for being here. And now, let me take you into a courtroom unlike any other. It was a cold, overcast morning in the mountain town of Eagles Rest, Oregon. The atmosphere in the courtroom felt as heavy as the fog curling just beyond the windows. Every seat was filled. Silence wrapped around the room like a blanket because everyone knew that today justice was about to face something truly unusual. The back doors opened. A 6-year-old boy with curly brown hair falling into his eyes stepped in. In his hand, he held a silver leash leading an old black Labrador with a slight limp in his hind legs. The boy's name was Eli Navarro. The dog's name was Scout. Each step Eli took echoed across the floor. No one spoke. A few people in the front rows dabbed at their eyes. People had seen victims testify before, but never like this. Never a traumatized boy, leading an aging dog who would soon become the courtroom's most important witness. The trial that day was for Owen Brooks, a wealthy, well-respected member of the community. He was accused of abducting children, part of a series of strange disappearances over the past year. But no one had ever caught him in the act. There were no bloodstains, no DNA, no hard evidence. Only one frightened look from Eli, and one unexpected reaction from Scout. The judge seated at the high bench raised an eyebrow and tapped his gavel as Eli reached the witness stand. A few whispers stirred, then quickly hushed. Someone murmured, "That's the dog who saved 3 kids in the Mexico building or collapsed back in 2019. Eli said nothing. He hadn't spoken since the day he disappeared, but his eyes found Owen, who sat at the defense table, calm, smug even. And then it happened. Scout stiffened, ears upright, eyes locked on Owen. From deep in his chest came a low, steady growl, quiet but unmistakably alert. Every head in the courtroom turned toward the old dog. No one could explain it at that moment, but that growl would change everything. 3 months earlier, Eagles Rest had been peaceful. Tree-lined streets, fog-draped mountains, wooden cabins tucked along the hillsides. People here rarely locked their doors, not out of confidence, but because they never truly feared anything. That all changed one quiet March afternoon. Rosa Navarro's world shattered. Her son Eli had been playing on the front porch like he always did. A gray pickup truck had parked nearby. A man in his 50s, dressed in a blue shirt and wearing a face of kindness, stepped out with a smile. "Do you like owls?" the man asked. Eli nodded. "I found one. It's hurt. It's in my truck. I don't know what to do. Want to take a look? Maybe you can help me calm it down." No one else heard those words. No one else was there to stop what came next. No screams, no noise, just silence. When Rosa returned from the kitchen, Eli was gone. At first she thought he was hiding, just a game, but when 10 minutes passed, then 30, then a full hour, no laughter, no footsteps, no Eli. Panic swallowed her whole. She ran through the neighborhood, questioning every passerby. No one had seen her son. Police were called, volunteers combed the woods. A helicopter scoured the dense forest surrounding their town. 6 hours later, Eli was found curled up beneath a large tree. His hands were dirty. There was a small cut on his arm. No signs of abuse, no ropes, no answers. But the most disturbing part, he didn't speak. No crying, no fear, just silence, eyes wide locked on nothing, as though his mind was still lost in a place far away, dark and cold. From that day forward, Eli didn't utter a single word. Rosa took him to every therapist in town and brought in experts from the city. No progress. Eli avoided eye contact. He flinched at the touch. He had built a fortress around himself and Rosa. His mother could no longer find a way in. What she didn't know was that hope that would come on 4 legs, old legs, limping legs, but faithful and unshakably loyal. That hope was named Scout. One afternoon, as Rosa was desperately searching for activities that could help children recover from trauma, she stumbled upon an article in the local paper. The headline read, "Hope Haven, where healing begins with loyalty." It was about a newly opened animal rescue center on the outskirts of town. At first, Rosa hesitated. Eli hadn't reacted to a single animal since the day he vanished. But something in that headline stayed with her. Maybe, just maybe, her son would respond differently to a creature that didn't speak, didn't judge, and didn't need him to explain a single thing. That very evening, she took Eli to Hope Haven. The center wasn't large, just a renovated wooden cottage with a small backyard and a row of clean kennels along one side. The air smelled of pine wood and warm dog food, a scent far gentler than hospitals or even homes. It felt breathable. They were greeted by Marla, a soft-spoken woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a calming presence. "We don't force the children to interact," she said gently. "We let them choose, and sometimes the dogs choose them." Marla led them down the kennel row. Some dogs barked loudly, some wagged their tails. Others retreated into corners, shy and unsure. Eli showed no response, just silence, until they reached the end of the hallway. There, next to an open kennel door, was a small rug. On it lay a black Labrador stretched out, head resting on his front paws, eyes half closed. "Still calm, that's Scout," Marla whispered. "He's a retired international rescue dog. He worked in the southern Mexico earthquake zone where hope was buried under concrete. He once found 2 children alive beneath a slab that weighed nearly a ton." Rosa looked at her son. Eli was watching Scout. For the first time in weeks, her boy seemed interested in something. Scout was injured during a mission. After retiring, he was sent here. His back leg was damaged, so he walks with a limp, but his instincts still sharp. Eli took a step forward, then stopped. Scout lifted his head. He didn't bark, didn't move. He just looked steadily, softly, as if he understood something. Rosa couldn't. His tail gave a small wag, ears lifting slightly, but he stayed put. Eli took another step, then another. No one spoke, no one interfered. The boy knelt beside the dog. His small hand reached out slowly, cautiously, like he was afraid of breaking whatever moment was unfolding. It was the first time Eli had touched a living being since the day he disappeared. Scout licked his hand just once. Rosa burst into tears. Not because of a miracle, but because of a signal. Something had shifted in Eli, like a tightly sealed door, cracking open just enough for the light to slip through. From that day forward, Rosa brought Eli to Hope Haven regularly. He still didn't speak, but he always went straight to Scout. And Scout always waited. From those silent interactions, a new language began to form, one that needed no words. Eli would draw shapes in the air and make small motions, circles with his fingers and taps on his palm, meaningless to others, but Scout understood. A circle meant lie down. With 2 waves of his hand, Scout would come closer. Once Rosa recorded it and showed it to a sign language expert. The man said it wasn't ASL. "It's something else," he noted. "A personalized language, a bond built on trust. That boy is placing his emotions into every gesture." Marla once told Rosa Scout only reacted like this with one other child, a boy trapped 36 hours under rubble in Puebla. He didn't bark, didn't dig, just laid beside him. Until help came, that boy lived. And from then on, Scout became a legend in the rescue unit. Then she added quietly, "Maybe Scout sees Eli as someone who also needs rescuing. Not from rubble, but from something buried deep inside." From that point on, Eli did not need coaxing. He didn't speak, but he drew. He didn't sing, but he swayed to soft music. And most of all, he trusted again. Not the world, but one dog. An aging, limping Labrador whose heart still beat in perfect rhythm with a silent child. No one knew then that this bond would soon help uncover a hidden truth and bring justice to light. But to Eli, it was simple. Scout was his friend, his only friend, the first soul to understand him. Without ever needing to ask a single question, "Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story?" Eli held a black marker in his small hand. Slowly, deliberately, he began to draw. First a large rectangle, a house, then a slanted roof, a small square window, and finally a strange detail. A tiny circle with lines radiating outward like an old chandelier hanging from a porch ceiling. Scout, who had been lying still nearby, suddenly lifted his head. The old Labrador approached the whiteboard and began sniffing intently, his body tense. His eyes locked onto the drawing. Then, startling everyone, he started to turn in tight circles, a behavior he once displayed when picking up a scent during his rescue missions. For the first time in a long while, Eli smiled. Just a faint smile, but enough to signal that something important was happening the following day. Investigator Nina Torres, who had been assigned to Eli's case, made her routine visit to Hope Haven. Rosa explained what had happened and handed her the drawing Nina trained to notice the smallest anomalies, examine the sketch carefully. It wasn't just a random wooden house. It looked like a memory map, a visual pulled from deep inside Eli's mind. Her instincts told her to dig further, but everything shifted when a personal item was introduced. Owen Brooks's attorney attempting to discredit the idea that Eli and Scout could somehow intuitively recognize the defendant agreed to provide personal items to prove their innocence. One item stood out: an old pair of brown leather gardening gloves. Instead of a lab testing right away, Nina decided to try something different. She placed the gloves in a sealed plastic container and brought them to Hope Haven. Rosa agreed to observe Scout's behavior during the test while Eli remained unaware of the object's origin. As soon as the box was opened, Scout's reaction was immediate. His ears shot up. His nose twitched furiously. Then a low, sharp whine escaped him. Not an aggressive growl, but a distinct alert signal, the same one he used when detecting survivors during missions. Eli flinched, looked at Scout, and then lifted his hand. In the air, he traced the outline of the same wooden house. Nina stood frozen. "He's connecting, sent to memory," she whispered, "and the dog is confirming it with instinct." Without delay, she assembled a team to reinvestigate the forested region surrounding Eagle's Rest, using Eli's drawing as their guide. 3 days later, just before sunset, one search team stumbled upon a small, nearly forgotten cabin tucked 2 kilometers from the nearest trail. It had no address, no listed owner. Moss covered the walls. The wooden door hung crookedly from rusted hinges. The roof was sagging and rotten. Scout was with them. As they approached, he began to whimper, growl softly, and pull hard on the leash leading them toward the back door. The team secured the perimeter and prepared for a tactical entry. The door creaked open. The first thing to hit them was a pungent chemical odor, possibly bleach or disinfectant. Inside the room was nearly empty. Old children's toys are scattered across the floor. An open pack of crackers sat on the table. Nearby, a nearly expired container of powdered milk and a flashlight. In the corner beneath a dusty rug, they found a small trap door sealed with a metal latch. Nina signaled to open it. A narrow, dark room lay beneath, only a few square meters in size. A hidden cellar was dug into the ground. No one was there, but someone had been. Scratch marks lined the wall. A pink child's pillow, a tattered blanket along the baseboards, signs of habitation. Someone had lived here. For quite some time. Scout barked once, twice, then a third time. He lay flat, nose pressed against the pink pillow tail. Still, Nina frowned and turned to a forensic technician. "Get a DNA sample from the blanket and find out who's ever owned this place." The lab results came back within 48 hours. The hair and dry blood matched a girl missing for 4 months. Lucia Moreno, a first-grade student from a neighboring town. She had disappeared outside her school. Until now, not a single clue had surfaced. Records showed the cabin was abandoned shortly after Eli was found. The pieces were falling into place, pointing to a calculated, experienced predator who had operated with eerie precision. But he hadn't counted on 2 things: a silent child and a retired dog whose instincts never retired. Nina stepped out of the cabin and looked toward the trees, their long shadows stretching across the forest floor. Scout walked beside her, head low, movement slow but deliberate. "We haven't caught him yet," she murmured. "But now, he knows we're close." The courtroom the next morning was packed. Local press, townspeople, families of missing children. Not a single word, not a cough, not even a whisper. It was as if someone had sealed the room with silence. Eli Navarro sat beside his mother. Thin, quiet, his hair was hanging over his eyes, his gaze fixed on the defense table. His fingers clutched the silver leash, the line between him and Scout, the aging black Labrador whose senses had never dulled. Across from them, Owen Brooks, the middle-aged man with a cold stare and practiced calm. Despite being linked to multiple abductions, he denied everything. But this time, he would not walk away untouched. There was no DNA, no eyewitness testimony, no surveillance footage, just a silent boy and an aging rescue dog. The prosecutor finished her case. The courtroom fell into complete stillness. The judge turned toward the young witness. "Eli," he said gently but clearly, "if you're ready, you may share anything you like out loud or with your hands. No one will pressure you." Eli didn't speak, but he slowly turned his head and looked straight at Owen. Owen looked back. For a moment, their eyes met, brief but heavy. Then Eli raised his small hand. He made a simple gesture, 3 fingers touching his shoulder, then pointing to the floor. Scout reacted instantly. His ears shot up, his body tensed, his eyes locked onto Owen. He let out a deep, low growl, not loud, but so primal that a few people instinctively leaned back in their seats. It wasn't a trained behavior. It was instinct, the kind Scout only used when something felt terribly wrong. The courtroom was frozen. A few people gasped. Some reporters stopped typing mid-sentence. Eli's mother reached out to hold him, but the boy didn't pull away. He only tightened his grip on Scout's leash. The judge banged the gavel, his voice slightly trembling yet firm. This court will recess for 15 minutes. From the defense table, Owen Brooks suddenly turned away, his hand wiping sweat from his brow. It was the first time he looked rattled. As for Eli, he still said nothing. But everyone understood Scout had spoken for him. The unexpected reaction in court sent quiet ripples through the investigation team. Though Eli hadn't uttered a word, Scout's instinctive response had stopped the courtroom cold, and that alone was enough for prosecutor Nina Torres to request a 24-hour extension to reopen the investigation formally. The judge granted the motion despite strong objections from the defense. They claimed the dog's behavior wasn't real evidence, but the truth was, everyone in that courtroom felt something was unraveling. That very night, Nina and her team, along with forensic specialists, returned to the abandoned cabin, the same one where Scout had growled weeks before, but this time they left nothing untouched. They lifted floorboards, examined every scratch, even dug into the soil behind the hidden basement room, and then they found it. A frayed, blood-stained rope was buried shallowly beneath a tree behind the cabin. The blood sample was rushed to the lab. In under 10 hours, the results came back. It matched Marisol Vega, a girl who had gone missing over a year earlier from a town 30 miles from Eagle's Rest. Her case had gone cold. No leads, no trace. Until now. And it didn't stop there. Inside the cabin wall, tucked between old boards, they discovered a man's wristwatch. On the inside was an engraving, OB. Prosecutor Torres immediately had the property sealed and secured a warrant to search all properties owned by Owen Brooks, including his lake house and old garage. In the garage, they found a teenage girl's jacket. DNA matched it to Marisol's soil samples and chalky white dust on the jacket, aligned with the terrain around the cabin. The next morning, Owen Brooks was summoned back to court. At first, he wore the same calm mask, but as the prosecutor unveiled the DNA results, the evidence photos and a journal belonging to Marisol found inside the cabin, Owen's hands began to tremble. Not a sound could be heard in the courtroom. His lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically, but it was too late. In front of the judge, for the first time, the defendant bowed his head and whispered, I don't want to run anymore. Owen Brooks officially confessed, a silent boy, an old dog, and a memory awakened by scent. Together they shattered a web of lies built over the years. The trial ended in a strange silence. There were no cheers, no applause, only a collective exhale, like the long, late spring wind brushing through a town that had held its breath for too long. Owen Brooks, once a respected figure in the community, was led away in handcuffs. No pride left in his gaze, just a hollow man broken by the truth he could no longer deny. But while one life faded into disgrace, another quietly began to heal. Eli Navarro walked out of the courthouse beside his mother, still holding tightly to Scout's leash. Sunlight spilt onto the courthouse steps, warming his pale face. And for the first time, a soft glow returned to his eyes. Scout turned back as if waiting. Eli paused. He reached out gently, touching the dog's head, then leaned in close. And then, to the surprise of Rosa and investigator Torres standing nearby, Eli whispered, "Scout? Thank you." One sentence, just one, but to Rosa it was the most precious sound she had ever heard. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she dropped to her knees and embraced her son for the first time since that day. She felt him come back to her. Scout didn't bark, didn't leap. He simply rested his head in Eli's lap, a quiet, steady presence, loyal to the end. No noise, no fanfare. Just the peace of a boy finding his voice, and a dog proving he had never been useless. Sometimes the strongest voice isn't heard through words. Sometimes it's found in silence, and sometimes the hero doesn't wear a cape. He just walks on four tired legs, carrying someone's entire world on his back. Eli and Scout walked slowly into the afternoon light. One chapter closed, another began. A future built on love, on trust, and a loyalty that needed no explanation. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If your heart is still echoing like mine right now, maybe we have something in common we believe in. Kindness, loyalty, and hope, even in its smallest forms. Every follow, every subscribe, it's not just a number. It's a message that says, keep telling stories, I'm still listening. If this story touched your heart, don't hesitate to like and subscribe. Let's spread more goodness together, truly. Thank you for staying all the way. See you in the next story.